All right, welcome back, guys. It's Tribe Talk. I'm here with my friend Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
You doing good today, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm sitting here looking out the window right now, and we are getting snow for the first time that I can, well, I don't ever remember that it's ever snowed since.
Yeah, it's the snowpocalypse. Somebody needs to remind Florida that we live in Florida. This is unbelievable.
It's Snowmageddon.
It's Snowmageddon.
It's what
exactly
it is.
Right.
Yeah.
We are continuing our interview series today, guys, and we have a very special guest, one of Mike's great friends, Ivan Morera. Tell us a little bit about Ivan.
Well, I've known Ivan here for, a long time. I would say going back to 2012, 13, somewhere in that time frame. Let's just put it this way, Jim. I've known him long enough that I actually knew him when both of us actually had hair.
Whoa. So remember Libby, who we interviewed last week, or a couple weeks ago, suggested that we call our podcast Two Bald Bearded Guys Spitting Truth. Well, we can change it to Three Bald Guys, but our newly retired Ivan doesn't have his beard yet, so we can't call it.
That's right. So, but as soon as as soon as he's out for a while, he'll have a beard.
Yeah, it's kind of contagious. But hey, Ivan, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Doing good, man.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
We're ready to talk to you.
We're excited, man. We're excited to have you here today.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share my journey of recovery.
Awesome, man. Well, let's just kick it off.
Yeah, dive in, man.
Okay. So, Ivan, just give us an idea of where you grew up. Kind of give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in New York City. Lived there for a couple of years, and we moved down to Miami Beach, Florida, when I was probably about 2. And then my mother met my stepfather, and we moved out to California and lived there till I was about 8. And then we moved back to New York City, back to Queens, New York. Lived there for like another 6 years. Unfortunately, my stepfather passed away when I was 10, and about 3 years later, we moved back down to Miami Beach, where I went to high school, and then I went to community college, and then I transferred to the Ohio State University.
The
Ohio State University.
Ohio State University.
I was going to ask why they all do that, but I don't think I'm going to.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
Yeah, okay.
It's a matter of pride.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
And then
recent national champions, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then after I graduated from university, I joined the military about a year after, and then that's when my journey began.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was it like? What part of New York did you grow up in? What was it like living in the city?
Yeah, when I was really young, probably between newborn and maybe 2 to 4, we lived in Brooklyn. I don't really remember much of that. Then we moved back from California. We lived in Queens. It was okay. We kind of, we didn't have a lot of money. But my mom and my dad, were able to feed us and clothe us, and when my stepfather passed away, my mom had to work full time. So basically my brother and I had to raise our sisters. So there was 4 of us. There was me, my twin brother, my middle sister, and my youngest sister. And basically we raised them while my mom was working full time.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So how tell us about that? That obviously puts you in a role of being a leader.
Yeah.
Right, at a very young age.
Yeah. A lot of times, we'd have to. My brother and I would get out of school and we'd go walk to where my sisters went to school, pick them up, and then walk them home. And then sometimes my mother would have some food prepared, and we just put it in the microwave or in the oven, and we'd have dinner, and my mom would get home really late, like, sometimes 7 or 8 o'clock at night from work. But, we spent a lot of time, just the 4 of us. We got really close, and things just, when you're a kid, you don't understand, what your situation is. We didn't really know that we didn't have a lot of money. We just knew that mom had to work. So we took care of each other. We would play around, we'd beat up on each other, just how like little kids do. Yeah. But I really have a strong love for my sisters, and for my brother. We were very tight for a long time, but once we moved to Miami Beach, we kind of like, I was a teenager by then, so I was more it was more like individual, like who am I as a person, playing sports, being active in school. So that kind of like, not separated us, but we kind of just like moved away from each other a little bit, and then when I moved away to college, I really didn't go home a lot. I spent a lot of time in school, working, and finding myself, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So weird question. You ever live in the Pacific Northwest?
No, never.
It seems like the only corner of this country you haven't been to.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I haven't. I've been to Canada though.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, visiting, that definitely counts.
Yeah, that counts.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with Ivan about that one.
Yeah.
Right
on. So tell us a little bit about. We'll probably get into some of that stuff here in a little bit about you're growing up and then those kinds of things. But tell us a little bit about your family today.
So my wife and I, Nancy, we've been married. This year will be 25 years.
Oh, that's awesome! Congrats.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. And then my daughter's 23. She graduated from The Ohio State University last year. And my son is currently a junior at the University of Central Florida. He comes home, once or twice a year to, like for Christmas or for New Year's. But, one thing about my family, unfortunately, is that, a lot of the people in my family have been divorced. Mm-hmm. And when my wife and I met and we decided to get married, my wife was like, this is forever. This is for life. Divorce is not an option. It's not a word in our vocabulary. We have to break this generational curse of divorce. So it hasn't been easy. It's been a very tough 25 years, but, my family's worth fighting for. Mm-hmm. I didn't want my son and daughter to grow up like I did without a father. And there was a lot of mistakes I made growing up because I didn't have that mentorship or that coaching from a father. And I had to figure things out for myself. And I didn't want that for my children. I wanted them to know that, they had stability. They had dad, even though I deployed a lot, when dad was home for them, and
That's awesome.
I wanted my kids to know that they are loved, especially my daughter. I needed my daughter to know that her father loves her,
Nice.
And that, she doesn't have to seek love from any other man but her father,
Mm-hmm.
So, it's helped her a lot. She's an incredibly strong young woman, and my son is an incredibly strong young man, and I didn't have that. I tell my son a lot that he is twice the man I was at his age, which is true, because he's extremely intelligent, he's hardworking, and he's just an incredible kid. I still call him a kid because he's my son, but he's just an incredible guy. And then my daughter is just incredibly, beautiful and intelligent, and very self-reliant. I'm very proud of my kids.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes to the type of person that you are, and going back to how you grew up and the struggles that you saw there and you had there. You don't want that for your kids, right? And
so he's a protector.
That's right. Yeah. You're a protector.
Yeah.
And so and we're going to get into that here in a minute about that warrior mentality that you have. But I think it's important that that this idea that you grew up a certain way, and we have a tendency to kind of believe that what I've been given in life, that's just how it is. And then I'm stuck here. But the reality is it's not the case,
not
right?
Yeah.
And you're the perfect example of someone that has broken, as you called it, a generational curse early on. And now that curse has been broken, that thing that's been on your family for so long is broken, and your kids are growing, and
they get to live in freedom.
That's it. And they get to live in freedom, which is awesome.
One thing I do have to say is I have to give all the credit to my wife.
Good call.
That's right.
Well, it's just because I was gone a lot. I was either deployed to combat, or deployed training others for combat, or I was training for combat. So I was gone probably 80% of my kid's life. The first 10 years of my kid's life, I maybe saw them a couple of times a year because I was gone all the time. And my wife has done such an incredible job, raising them, and loving them, and showing them who they are as people, and I'm very blessed to be married to an incredibly strong, woman, she's amazing. You know, she's so self-reliant. You know, I'm very blessed to be married to her.
Oh, young men, take notes. I love what you just did there, Ivan. First of all, you need to appreciate your wife.
Yep.
That's such a big deal. And every chance you get, you need to speak highly of them.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that earn it. So
that's right. And
young men, pay attention to this man.
That's right. And one more point I want to make about what Ivan said a little while ago is we have a tendency a lot of times especially early on in relationships, thinking that, you know, all my problems are going to be answered, everything's going to be great and everything like that. But what Ivan said, and it's important to understand, is that it's not easy. And so when we bring the men and women together to have a family, there's going to be times that are tough to get through, and that's why God put us together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just an important thing to remember.
Marriage is not easy. You know, marriage is not meant to be sunshines and rainbows and unicorns and all that stuff. No, marriage is challenging because you have two different people with, you know, my wife and I grew up differently, you know, from two different cultures. You know, we have to come together and find resolution in everything. You know, we have to find agreement in things that we do. It's not always, we don't always agree, you know.
That's right.
And, you know, sometimes, you know, things don't go well. But it's not just about, you know, the love I have for her. It's the love I have for my family, is that my family's worth fighting for and working with my wife to stay together. Because divorce is so easy now.
Yes,
you know, you can go.
It's popular, actually.
Right. You can go whenever you want, but I'm not like that. You know, I made a commitment to her, you know, and till death do us part, you know, and I'm going to keep that commitment to her because I love her.
The battle's not supposed to be with her. It's supposed to be the two of you against everybody.
Right, exactly,
else.
yeah.
So that's awesome.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's good.
So you mentioned raising your family as a military man. How'd you end up there?
So there's kind of a tradition in my family. My mother's uncle served in the Ecuadorian Navy during World War II. My mother has another uncle from her aunt's husband was a tanker during World War II.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so he was
not a high life expectancy for those guys. That's awesome.
You know, he fought through World War II. My uncle was in the Navy during Vietnam, and my oldest cousin was in the Navy and the Army. My brother was a Marine for 20 years, and then my other cousin has been in the military as well. So after I graduated college and I moved back down to Miami, my oldest cousin was like, "Hey man, it's your turn." I was like, "Okay."
Like tag, you're it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I had just gotten married, and I didn't want to leave my wife alone, so I joined the Florida National Guard for about a year. I was an infantryman in the Florida National Guard, and I really enjoyed the training. I really enjoyed the camaraderie. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this full time. So I went active duty, and I was allowed to change my MOS. I went from an infantryman to a combat medic, and I ended up at Fort Carson, Colorado. So you know, that's the start of my active duty military career.
Oh, it's God's country up there, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's very
where my
beautiful.
wife grew up. I love it there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a Green Beret.
Yeah.
And so you decided at some point during this time that it was time to go to SFAS.
Yeah.
SFAS is the selection process.
Right. Special Forces Assessment and Selection.
Yep. That a Special Forces or Green Beret, also known as Special Forces, goes in and gets selected. Goes through the process of the pipeline to try to get selected. So, what made you decide to do that? When did you go through, I guess? And then just, you know, if there's any stories, anything you want to share with us.
So I was deployed to Iraq in 2003 with an infantry battalion. We had a fire base set up at an abandoned train station. And one day, these 3 trucks rolled through, and you know, they had guns out of every window, and these guys had beards and these really cool uniforms and these really, you know, cool body armor and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, who are these guys? So they get off their trucks. They're talking to our company commander. One of the guys goes and talks to our physician's assistant, and I kind of like walk over there, you know, to see what's going on. and they're talking medical terminology, and he's asking for some medical supplies, and our PA gives him some medical supplies and some medication, and these guys get on their trucks and roll out. And I asked my PA, like, who was that guy? He's like, oh, that was the 18 Delta. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, oh, that's a Special Forces medic. I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Special Forces medic. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I want to do that. So my PA was like, well, you got to go to selection. I'm like, okay, roger that. So we get back from Iraq in 2004, and I start preparing. I start, I go see a SF recruiter. I go to the briefing. My wife comes with me. She's like, hey, when do we sign up? Because she was really excited about all the extra pay,
Ah, nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it was like I went to selection February of 2005. So actually, this February will be 20 years that I went to selection. I spent 6 months preparing, a lot of rucking, a lot of running, lifting. They had given us a booklet on how to prepare, so I followed the booklet. And I went to selection. It was a 21-day selection process, and it was tough. It was the toughest thing I had done in the Army at that time, up to that time. And it was tough. And I remember the last day, I actually got injured. I injured my back during one of the events, but I kept going because I didn't have a plan B. I'm either going to become a Green Beret or I'm going to get out of the Army.
Wow.
Sell out, man. Sell all the way out for what you want. I love that.
Yeah, so last day, they call off our roster numbers. I was like 292. I got my roster number called, and I was a little worried. I was like, well, what's going on? And they had separated two groups, and the first sergeant at the time came over. He's like, all right, guys, welcome to Special Forces.
Nice.
So I was like, yes, I got selected. So
I just sat here like I didn't know what the outcome was, waiting to hear what you just had to say.
Yeah.
Lame.
Yeah.
My bad, guys.
That's okay. So I got back to Fort Carson, and I prepped the family. Hey, we're moving to Fort Bragg. So I went to airborne school, came back to Fort Carson, and then we drove down to Fort Bragg, and I started the Q course. And the Q course for me was about 2 years because the 18 Delta course was a year long at the time.
Hey, real quick before you go too far, the Q course was, explain that to
the Q course is the Special Forces qualification course. So that's where you go through different phases of training to become a Green Beret. So when I went through, the first phase was non-commissioned officer school, and then the second phase was small unit tactics course, and then SEER school, and then
SEER school being
survival, evasion, resistance, and escape.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And then I went through the 18 Delta Special Forces Medic course for a year, and then I went through 3 months of language training, and then went to Robin Sage, which is our final exercise to become Green Berets.
Hey, so real quick, Ivan, they have a lot of documentaries on this stuff, and the way they produce those, it looks hard.
It is.
But give our listeners kind of an indication. You've probably seen them. How much harder is it than they can actually represent, without giving away any details that you're not allowed to talk about?
It's tough. Physically, it's tough. But if you're in good shape, if you're in great shape, you're gonna make it through. The big part is the mentality. Am I mentally strong for this? Can I make it through this training mentally? Because you're gonna have your good days and your bad days during training, and it's they create the training to where it's representation of what's gonna happen when you're actually out in combat or you're training your partner force or whatever. They make it that way. They make it tough intentionally to see if you've got what it takes. So when you get out into the force, you're able to conduct business as you will.
That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So many lessons you can apply to the rest of your life too. Yeah. So
yeah, and then what that's doing is that's preparing you to step into an area of operations.
Yes.
And that means that you need to be physically, spiritually, and mentally prepared to be able to step into that world. And you said something about being mentally strong. Mm-hmm. The mental piece is obviously an important thing, but you also said that I had to be physically ready as well. And that's what we talk a lot about in this ministry is that you have to have both of those pieces, or all three of those pieces spiritually as well, in order to be able to handle the area of operations that you're in. And so anyway, I just wanted to kind of point that out.
Yeah, we got a large non-military audience, right. And people are curious about that. And the bottom line is, like, you raised your hand and volunteered to do that. Yeah. I think one of the things that plagues men today is they don't feel like they have to raise their hand and volunteer to embrace the hard in their life. And there's a lot that we can learn from men that do that.
That's right.
And we can apply those principles to our families. So that's why I bring that up.
And I'll just say, and I've said this before, but for me, I can't think of one thing in my life, not one thing, that was given to me that was easy.
Yeah, good point.
And if it was given to me easy, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So in other words, the reality is, and I feel like we're losing that in this country, is understanding that, hey man, you've got to go to work and you will get pushed. It's not going to be fun. And we have to embrace, as you guys would say, embrace the suck. Yeah. So there are times, I'm not saying that life's got to be this terrible thing all the time, but we have to understand that if we're going to achieve things that actually matter, it's going to take work, and it's going to take a lot of work sometimes.
Good point.
With that, the big key with the training that I've been through and the hardships that I've been through is it develops resiliency.
That's it, man.
And that is what keeps you going, is your ability to recover from any type of bad situation and continue to move forward. That's why, it takes a special kind of man to become a Green Beret, is your ability to be resilient, to be able to, take whatever's, thrown at you and continue to move forward. And that's the big part of being a man, is being resilient. Are you able to face your fears? Are you able to face bad situations? Are you able to face a life-changing event that, that's changed everything, about who you are, and continue to be successful?
That's it. And that comes from free will. I will freely choose to do those things in order to overcome.
I want to do those things.
I want to do those things, yes.
And it's not the absence of fear.
It's not the absence of fear.
Right.
No.
It's facing it and saying, I'm going to take it.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. And so this, to me, free will is a superpower that God has given us.
Yeah.
And it can also be a really bad thing. But the idea is if I'm lined up with God's truths, I understand his ways, then and if I apply my free will in that direction, man, good things are going to happen. It's not going to be easy, but good things can happen.
True.
Okay, so you were talking a little bit about being an 18 Delta. 18 Delta is what?
18 Delta is a Special Forces Medical Sergeant. We're basically an unlicensed physician's assistant. We work under the license of the battalion doctor or the battalion physician's assistant. We're basically, in any remote area, we could be the highest echelon of medical care within, 20 miles or so. A lot of, especially like when I was in Afghanistan, we had a medical clinic, and the closest medical clinic was like another 100 miles away. Mm-hmm. So myself and two other 18 Deltas were the ones in charge of, monitoring the health of our teams, and then also helping the local village that was just outside our fire base. A lot of the Afghanis would come in and ask for medical attention. We had a lot of children that were sick. I saw like 105 kids in one day that were ill. We've had trauma patients come through, local Afghanis that had accidents. So we had to treat them and medevac them out to a higher echelon of care. But basically, we're just an unlicensed PA. Our main focus is trauma. That's our bread and butter. Combat trauma management is what we do the best. And then clinical medicine, we tend to be able to diagnose and treat certain ailments or illnesses. Some things can be a little higher than our pay grade, so we have the ability to call our docs at the battalion level. Hey, these are my signs and symptoms. This is what's going on with my patient, and then that doc will help us diagnose and treat, or if need be, medevac that patient out of the area into a higher echelon of care.
And that's like keeping your team going in the environment, right? But also like assessing the battlefield and providing care where needed.
Right, yeah.
So
like a lot of times, I was in a couple of firefights. We had a couple of our partner force get injured, and I would actually train some of our partner force in combat trauma management, and they would apply what I taught them to to their teammates, so then I could care for my teammates that might have been injured. But I've had treated our partner force several times that were injured during combat operations.
Yeah, so I've asked the question. I've worked with the SEAL teams before I came to Green Beret land, and I've asked the question, and I've to a lot of different people from different walks of the military, and I've asked, hey man, if you go down in the field, you've been shot, blown up, whatever it is, who do you want to show up? And almost every time I hear I want an 18 Delta to show up, because you guys are so well trained to be able to handle that sort of situation. And the thing that's interesting is, just to kind of put a little understanding for some of those that may not understand, is that, there are times, and we're going to get into your story here in a second, where bullets are flying still, things are going bad, and that 18 Delta has to take care of the wounded individual, and also, do the best they can to keep everybody else safe, whatever's going on. So it can be a very stressful thing, right?
Yeah. So a lot of times back in the rear, 18 Deltas do a lot of administrative work. We don't do a lot of the work like the other MOSs might do. But when it's time to go to work, you want an 18 Delta, because we're constantly training, we're constantly learning new techniques on how to save lives. So when you're deployed, whether you're in combat or conducting training with a partner force, you want the 18 Delta there, because they save lives. They save lives, and they also cross train other team members to be able to do the same thing. So, we're constantly training others, and we're constantly being trained ourselves to keep our skills up to date.
So, without giving away any secrets, obviously, how many medics do you operate with in the battlefield? Is it just you, or do you have a partner?
It just depends on how many teams. Like on an ODA, Operational Attachment Alpha, you're going to have your 2 medics, right? So, you could possibly do a split team operation where one medic goes with, 5 guys, and then the other medic goes with the other 5 guys. So it just depends. Like myself, on my first team, there was 3 of us actually. There were 3 of us on the team. So we were able to interact with each other and support each other when we were working on our partner force. And then also we had one of our attachments also 2 of our attachments get injured. And the 2 guys that were senior to me were working on them, and I was helping them, with supplies and things like that. So, you could have, if you have a whole company of Green Berets, you're gonna have 12 18 Deltas, because you got 2 per team, and there's 6 teams in a company.
Yeah, so I'm kind of leading you a little bit.
Sure.
So, and just to describe what I'm looking at to our listening audience. So Ivan's sitting on the couch. He's got an exceptionally good haircut.
Yes, very good.
But you're also missing your left hand.
Yes.
And so the reason I asked that question is, why don't you tell your story?
Sure.
And tell us what happens when the 18 Delta on the team becomes the patient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. So. August 16th of 2013, I'm the senior medic on a Halo team. We are working with the Afghani version of Rangers, the commandos as we call them, and we're probably like 2 months left in our deployment, and we have to go conduct a mission. And up to then, we were flying everywhere in helicopters. However, because our target was so close to us, we drove. We drove large MATVs. So, the night before we conduct mission, we do our mission brief, and we get an intel dump of what the enemy is doing. And we found out that they started using suicide bombers on motorcycles next to U.S. vehicles and detonating themselves. So we start our mission. We're driving out to do our operation, and I'm driving. I am the lead driver of the U.S. contingent. Our partner force is ahead of us. I'm driving to the target. Probably about halfway there, I look out my driver's side window, and I see an Afghani in a long shirt. We call them the man dress. I don't know what they're called. And I could see him. Could see a suicide vest printing on his shirt, and I was like, exactly what the intel dump told us is what they're about to do to us. So I move away from him. He follows me. He's right on my driver's side tire, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not dying today. So I move away again, but I come off the road. So
this is while you're driving in the convoy?
This is while I'm driving in the convoy.
You're not sitting still. We're on the move.
Yeah, okay. We're on the move to conduct our operation. When I come back on the road, because the wheelbase is so short, I lost control of that vehicle, and that vehicle started to shake, and I knew that vehicle was going to roll over. So I yell out, roll over, roll over, and everybody, what we're trained to do is, tuck your arms in and tuck your chin down. And I was knocked unconscious on the first roll. Now, the guys in the vehicle behind me told me that the vehicle rolled 4 times. On the first rollover, my driver's side door broke off and was pushed out like 100 meters in front of us. And then we rolled 4 times. Well, I hit my head on the steering wheel and I got knocked out. And when I woke up, the vehicle on the ground in the road had crushed my left hand, and I was left-handed at the time, so it was my dominant hand.
Really quick, so I understand. We'll get to the hand because that's the big part of the story. But what happened to your knee and everything as you were getting thrown from the vehicle?
So it wasn't just my hand that was my hand was crushed. My left rotator cuff was torn to the bone. My left knee was completely destroyed. The only thing that survived was my ACL. And then my lower back, pretty much the entire left side of my body was destroyed. So I had multiple injuries on the left hand, plus a traumatic brain injury. So anyway, I'm laying there. So if I hadn't been wearing my 5-point harness, I would have been cut in half. I would have fell out and been cut in half.
Oh man.
Yeah. So my team sergeant was the truck commander. We're laying on the driver's side. He unbuckles himself. He kind of falls on me. We kind of laugh, right? It's just weird how we kind of laugh about it. But I could see blood just squirting out of my arm. So my team sergeant throws a tourniquet on. He tries to pull me out, but I'm actually still attached to my hand. There's tissue attached, so he calls in my junior medic. Junior medic comes in, and he's brand new to the team. I'm his first trauma patient out of the Q course, and he says a couple of colorful words.
Were you his mentor?
I was his mentor. Okay. Yeah, I was his senior and his mentor. So he's like, Ivan, I got to cut the rest of your hand off. And I'm like, just get me out of here. So he puts a second tourniquet on, takes out his trauma shears, and cuts through what's left. And he cut through my ulnar nerve, and it just felt like the entire left side of my body was on fire.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I saw him a couple years ago, and I asked him like, hey, did I scream in your ear when you cut my hand off? He's like, dude, you didn't say a word. But in my mind, I could hear myself scream, so I thought I was screaming. So that's just like weird to me. Anyway, so I'm going in out of consciousness. They pull me out of the vehicle. They put me on a litter. I could tell I'm on a litter because there's a bar that goes. If anybody's been on a litter, you can feel that bar across your back. And I wake up and I'm like, what's going on? And he's working on my arm, just putting a stump dressing on. He's like, Ivan, you're gonna be okay. You're going home. You're gonna be okay. And I pass out again, and I wake up, and I'm like, where's the bird? Where's the bird? And he's like, 5 mics out, where's the helicopter? 5 minutes out. And I go unconscious, and then I feel the rotor wash, and my junior Charlie, engineer sergeant, he's like, Ivan, you're gonna be okay. You're going home. And he covers me, and I'm passed out again. And the next time I wake up, I'm in the hospital in Kandahar, and my voice is really raspy. I was intubated in the helicopter because I stopped breathing. That was a tough one. And then I went straight to surgery. When I got there, they, from what I was told, they cleaned up my arm, put a wound vac on there, a piece of plastic that pulls fluid out of the arm, so my arm didn't swell that much. so I wouldn't lose any more of it. I wake up and I'm like high as a kite, and I'm like, what happened to me? I look at what's left of my left arm, and I just start crying. And my teammates were there. Ivan, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. My battalion chaplain is there. My battalion commander, battalion sergeant major is there. Ivan, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna get the best care. You know, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. And the first thing I asked my chaplain is, I need to call my wife. I need to call her. So he gave me his satellite phone, and I called, and it was like really early in the morning, and I left a message on my wife's phone because she was actually driving to work. She told me that she checked the message, and she did she went across 2 lanes of traffic and made a U-turn and went back home because the kids were getting ready for school. And my nephew was living with us, and he's about 5 years older than my kids. So he was in middle school, and my son was in elementary, and my daughter was in year behind him in middle school, or actually a couple of years behind in middle school. Anyway, she tells my nephew, hey, something happened to your tío. You know, my wife's Mexican, so, you know, we talk Spanish. You know, she tells him what happens, and then my wife tells my kids what happened. And, you know, my nephew was there for them. You know, that's one thing I really appreciate about my nephew, is that he was there. He's like, you know, Theo's going to be okay. Your dad's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. You know, and from what my wife told me, you know, when she told my son, I lost my left hand, he said, like, well, that's the hand Dad writes with. What's he going to do? You know? And my wife was like, he's going to be okay. Dad's going to be okay. You know, so, you know, I'm in Kandahar for 24 hours. I get pushed out to Bagram for 24 hours, and then I get pushed out to Longstuhl Medical Center in Germany. I'm there for 24 hours. Each time I got moved, I had surgery on my arm. And then, you know, I get flown out to San Antonio, Brooke Army Medical Center. And you know, that was a long flight. That was over 12 hours, and that was probably the worst flight of my life because I was in so much pain. They couldn't give me enough medication to stop my pain because they would have overdosed me, and it just felt like my hand was on backwards because I could still feel my left hand, but it felt like it was inside my arm.
Right.
And
which doesn't even speak to the rest of your injuries either. Right. I'm sure everything.
Right. Hurt. But all I could focus on was my left arm, and it was just so painful. It was just the worst. But I was so angry at myself and so disappointed in myself because I felt like I let my team down. Because like, how could I get injured? You know, I'm the senior medic. I should be there for my team. You know, I'm the one that they rely on. You know, like I was so distraught and so upset with myself, so disappointed in myself that I was angry. You know, I was angry at myself. You know, and I remember, you know, I had to go to the bathroom, and the nurse gave me this bottle. I'm like, no, I like hit it out of her hand. I'm like, no, I'm standing up and going to the bathroom. You know, because I was so mad at myself, and I just went. You know, I came back and laid down, and I was just so disappointed in myself. Like, how could I do this? You know, how could I let my team down? So I get to San Antonio, Brooke Army Medical Center, and that night was pretty tough. I had 2 surgeons looking at me, you know, looking me over, checking me. Like, all right, they put me in my room, and I couldn't sleep that night at all. You know, 'cause the pain was so bad. The next morning, the nurses come in, and then the orthopedic surgeon doing his rounds comes in and presents me as a case to all the other
professionals.
Students
and
students that were there, you know. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be me. So I just start talking to the doc. I'm like, hey doc, I'm an 18 Delta, just talk shop. You know, tell me what's going on, this and that or whatever. You know, so we just start talking medical terminology, and all the students are surprised, like, who is this guy? Yeah. You know? So
that's what I keep asking myself, who is this guy?
Surprises always.
Yeah.
So, you know, I spend the day, you know, a lot of people come in to visit me. You know, I'm signing a lot of papers. There are a lot of the SOCOM Warrior Care Program, Care Coalition. Their representative comes in, hey, we're here to take care of you. Whatever you need, you let us know. Other benevolent organizations come in. I get a check for like $3,000. Hey, go buy yourself whatever you need. Here's an iPad to communicate with your family. You know, I was getting taken care of. And then that night, that night was bad. That second night in the hospital was so bad. I started doubting myself. The enemy started attacking me like, you're worthless. Nobody's going to want you. Your family doesn't want you. Nobody's going to want you. Look at you, you loser. And I was like, no. No. I heard, I was having that wrestling match with God too. And then I heard God say, don't worry, Ivan, I got you. And this weight lifted off of me, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm good. How do we make God look good? That was my question to myself, was how do I make God look good for this? Because I wasn't going to let this beat me. Because I know things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. And God had, God has something for me. I was like, I never blame God for what happened. I'm like, oh God, this is your fault. No, it's how do we make you look good?
That's it, man.
How do we show people that, God is great? So that night I started making goals. I was like, okay, you know what? In the morning, I'm just going to go for a walk. Because I had, for me, exercise is a big part of my mental health. So I hadn't done any workout or anything for like 3 days, and I'm like chomping at the bit to do something. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get up and I'm just going to go for a walk around the floor. I wasn't allowed to leave my room because I was considered contaminated, but I was like, no, I'm leaving my room.
Try and stop me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I just didn't want to pause, man. Yeah. It's heavy. There's a lot there. And what I really want to point out is, what I love what you said is that during all this, the number one thing that happened is you're getting attacked.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think it's very important for those that are listening out there that are going through tough times or have been in tough times. When we understand that we were created for a reason and that we have an identity, and that identity is wrapped up in the fact that we are sons and daughters of God, that means that there's going to be times if we have an enemy, that enemy is going to attack.
Yeah.
And he's going to start trying to tell you lies and deceptions. And this is a very important thing to remember, that our God is never going to deceive you. Yeah. He's never going to leave you alone or cause any sort of ailment or whatever it is in you. And the enemy is automatically going to be there, and it's an opportunity because you have a chink in your armor, and you had a massive chink in your armor that night, right?
Well, and was your family there yet?
No, not yet.
So notice the devil's timing.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He waited till you were most vulnerable.
Yeah, there was nobody there. I was by myself. Only people coming in were doctors and nurses, and some of the medics coming in. But that night, that next, I was making short-term and long-term goals. That first night, that second night there, I'm gonna go for a walk tomorrow morning. I'm gonna, next day I'm gonna do a workout. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get out of here. 3 months from now I'm gonna be in physical therapy. 6 months from now I'm gonna get out of here and deploy again. That wasn't a goal that happened, but I was making goals because then I was figuring out how am I going to get to these goals.
That's it. And that's important.
Yeah.
So once again, we started early on in this conversation. We talked a lot about men, that life is not easy, and there's going to be challenges out there, and that we want life to be easy. But the reality is that we get nothing without working for it.
Yeah.
And it's just, this should be a testament. And this should be a message to a lot of people listening that are struggling, that the second when you're at your absolute worst, the first thing you did is you said, hey man, I'm going to fight and I'm going to start setting goals. And those goals weren't easy. Going for a walk, for example, probably wasn't as easy as it once was, right?
No, it wasn't.
I love this too, because a lot of people are going to listen to this and think about what it takes to be a Green Beret, and they're going to say something like, oh, well, I could never do that. Mm-hmm. And that might be true, because that career field is not for everybody.
That's right.
But there is something that God is calling you to do that's hard.
That's it.
And I think what the lesson they can learn from Ivan and men like him is choose your hard. And then the discipline that it took for you to, right after this happened, make goals for yourself and then immediately chase after them. That's what men can do. They can apply that to any area in their life. It doesn't have to be a military career, but choose your hard and be willing to take steps to accomplish your goals. I love that.
And I think for me was that because I knew I had, Jesus in my heart, that, and I wanted to make God look good. That's why I was making these goals, like, to glorify God and let him know, like, let people know that, God is behind me. He's the one lifting me up. He's the one pushing me forward. He's the one that's there for me. So that's why, I started making these goals, because I knew God was with me. Like the second I heard his voice, I was like, I am good. I'm good. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be more than okay. So that was one of the reasons to make goals. That was a major reason to make goals.
So did that continue throughout your recovery process, or were there ups and downs?
Oh, there was always ups and downs. You have your good days, you have your bad days. Some days, I get up in the morning and I'm like, okay, let's go to physical therapy and then occupational therapy, ready to go. And then there's mornings where, like, I don't even want to get out of bed. I didn't want to get out of bed. I felt, I was feeling depressed. I was feeling, sorry for myself. And then I was like, no, you got to get up and you got to get better. God's with you. He wants you to be there. And that's where discipline kicked in, where, I was like, it's 6 a.m. and I got to drive, my wife's got to drive me to physical therapy. We got to take the kids to school. It's like, no, get up. Let's get up. Let's get ready. And let's get going. Because, we've got bigger and better things in the future that we need, and today is just a stepping stone to, 6 months, a year from now, so we got to continue to push forward. So yeah, I've had my good days and my bad days, and I'll be honest with you, I had a really bad day. Christmas of 2013, we were allowed to go home. I was allowed to take leave because, people were taking, 2 weeks off or whatever, and, physical therapists weren't going to be there. So I was like, okay, let's go home. So we went home, and it was during Christmas season. I was having a really, really bad night. Like, I was in really bad pain. I couldn't control my pain. And again, I was getting attacked. Nobody's going to want you. How are you going to support your family? Bad. And this is the only time I ever thought of this, but I opened up my nightstand and I saw my pistol. And I could feel that barrel against my temple, And my wife is sleeping behind me, and I'm just in really bad pain, and I'm doubting myself, and it's like, just get it over with. Nobody wants you around. But then the thought of my son came to me, and I was like, I'm such a coward. How could I even think about taking my own life when my son needs me? He saved my life. I didn't want him growing up without me. I didn't want him thinking like, oh, it's okay to give up. It's not okay to give up. So I put that pistol away and I got on my knees and I just cried and prayed like, God, I need you. Help me. And that next morning I woke up and it was like, okay, I'm good. I'm never going to do that again. There's no reason to take my life. There's no reason, because I got 3 reasons in the house right now that, 3 people in this house that need me. My wife and my 2 kids, they need me. So, since then I've never thought about that, because, my family is everything to me, because I the way I grew up, family was everything, and my wife and kids are everything to me, and I wanted to be there to see my kids graduate school, graduate college, get married, someday, have grandkids, live a good life, live a life worthy of God. And that next day was tough, but I got through it, and the thing is, it's not just about getting through the days, it's overcoming every day. It's overcoming these days that are tough, that are hard, that you want to give up. It's like, nah, I'm going to overcome, because this is how I look at it. Jesus overcame the grave, right? And when you accept Jesus into your heart, you accept that, you become that powerful to where you have the ability to overcome anything because he overcame it first. So each obstacle I go through, each hard day I go through, I'm able to overcome because I have, Jesus in my heart, because he's there for me.
And that's it. And that's what I love about our God, is that there's nothing that we have been through that he hasn't felt or understands. And so no matter what happens, there's times, that we may feel completely alone or feel as if the world's left us or the people that we love left us or whatever it is. At the end of the day, Jesus understands every bit of it, and we can take it to him because he's never going to leave us. And that's just awesome, man.
And one thing I've learned also is that, God prepares us for something big that he wants to use us for.
That's it.
I don't know what he wants to use me for, but he has trained me to become a better man, to become a better father, to become a better husband. And I've accomplished many things. People have told me I've motivated them, inspired them, but I don't think God is done with me yet.
No. So Ivan, I gotta
go ahead, buddy.
I'm sorry, man. Look, man, here's the deal. So we're going to talk about identity and purpose here in a minute. And what I want you to understand is that everything that you're doing, everything that you've done throughout your whole life has been building and building and building so that you can handle more and more and more and more, right? The things that you can handle right now are much better and stronger than they were years ago.
Yeah.
What I want to say to you is that you are already living your purpose. You are, because you teach people. There's a reason why we asked you on this podcast.
Yeah.
Right? It's not because we wanted to hang out with Iowa. I mean, we do like hanging out with you, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sign up for that.
Yeah, that's right. But the point is that you listen to me, man. Like, seriously, you are making an impact on people's lives, and just like our Father, just like Jesus did, he made impact on people's lives. And at the end of the day, we talk about this all the time in the ministry, is that our purpose in life, we all have the same purpose, and that is to bring heaven to earth.
Yeah.
And so through your story and the things that you do and the way just your attention to people and the things that you're constantly doing, you're already doing that. So
Appreciate that.
it's not like there's not going to be a big bright light that goes off, man. It's just you're doing it daily, and you miss that. So okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
So let me ask you this, man.
Sure.
So the night you're sitting there and you're feeling really low, did you lose what you thought was your purpose and your identity? So really quickly, it's easy for guys like you to go, I am a Green Beret.
Yeah.
In other words, I identify as a Green Beret. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And then that goes to a second piece, which is this purpose idea, which is to say, and my job, the reason why I'm here is to eradicate terrorism off the planet, whatever.
Yeah.
But did you lose your arm, or, which we know you did, but in the process, did you lose your identity and purpose because you thought you lost being a Green Beret and your purpose?
Yeah. So at first, I those first couple of days, I thought I had lost who I am. I identified myself as a Green Beret. This is who I am. This is what I do. But then, that night, back in 2013 during Christmas, and I thought of my son. I was like, I'm a father. I'm a husband, you know, I'm a son, I'm a brother, you know, I'm all these other things just besides a Green Beret, you know, and I started trying to figure out, you know, being a Green Beret is what I do. It's not who I am.
That's it, man.
You know, and I'm a son of God.
Yes.
You know, and God's got a plan, you know, and He's putting me on a path to glorify Him, you know. So, you know, that night was pretty tough, but like I said, my son saved my life because, you know, he has something I didn't have growing up, and that's a father. And I wanted, you know, I want to be his father. So, you know, I've learned to realize that being Green Beret is what I did for over 18 years. You know, now that I'm retiring, you know, I'm becoming Ivan. I'm just Ivan. That's it. You know, I'm Ivan. I'm an adaptive athlete.
Well, not just.
If it's just, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an adaptive athlete. You know, I've become a leader in the SOCOM Warrior Care program. You know, but it's just what I did. You know, and I enjoy that time in my life. You know, and I miss it, and I'm gonna miss it. But you know, now I'm gonna start a new journey in my life where I can concentrate on, you know, my family more. You know, especially my wife. You know, because my kids are grown and they're almost out of the house basically. So it's just me and my wife now, and it's like I you know, there's a lot of things I got to make up for. You know, being gone all the time. So you know, I'm going through a bit of identity crisis right now because of my retirement. I'm trying to figure out what is my purpose again and who am I all over again. But I'm learning that I've always been Ivan. You know, I've always been Nancy's husband, Amber and Alex's father. That's who I am as a man. You know, and I'm learning that the skills that I acquired through my military career, I can apply in my new life as a retired combat veteran.
That's it.
You know, and I'm learning new skills, you know, to help other people. You know, my goal is to coach, you know, people, I don't like to say disabilities, but people with adaptations, you know, coach them in whatever adaptive sports they may want to participate in. You know, I found my new passion for adaptive sports because I participate in adaptive sports. And that's been a big part of my recovery, is just playing adaptive sports. It gave me a new purpose, you know, a reason to continue to train and remain strong and in good shape. You know, because I've competed nationally and internationally in adaptive sports, and I really, really enjoy that. And now that now that I'm older, you know, coaching has become my passion now.
He's skipping a whole part of the process, though. I mean, guys, don't forget, Ivan, you also were a fully qualified Green Beret as an amputee before you retired.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So. Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
As the guy who trained him. But so I mean, if you don't mind sharing,
sure.
Like, what did it take to get back to combat status? And you kind of did that in parallel with becoming a Warrior Games athlete.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah. So one of the key things for me was there were a couple of goals I made that night was getting back on airborne status and getting back on Halo status. You know, jumping out of airplanes, you know, is a big deal, you know, with Green Berets, you know. That's
much easier with two hands, by the way, because you got to steer those parachutes.
Yeah. But within 18 months of losing my hand, I was able to conduct my first airborne operation, utilizing my prosthetic. You know, I went through some training to get back to airborne status, and then learning how to shoot, move, communicate again. You know, I actually spent 4 weeks on the range, relearning how to shoot my rifle and my pistol one-handed, and then my rifle utilizing my prosthetic. You know, getting back to expert, and then
not qualified, expert. No big deal.
That's right.
Yeah. And then learning my medical skills all over again, learning how to put in sutures, intubating patients with my prosthetic, and I spent about a year doing all that just so I could get back on full active duty status. I wasn't able to deploy to combat again, however, but I was able to deploy to our area of operation and conduct training with our partner force, both on the range, medical training, teaching our indigenous forces how to fast rope out of helicopters. I went back to being Green Beret and coaching and teaching and mentoring our partner force. And one of the cool things that happened was we did a big international airborne operation in Honduras, and one of the generals from Guatemala came up to me and was like, "This, I've never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I love that.
You have one hand and you're doing all these things. How do you do it?" And
Makes me happy.
I'm just like, I don't know how to do anything else. I can't quit. He told me I inspired his soldiers. They saw me on the aircraft jump out, and they couldn't believe, a one-handed guy wearing a prosthetic is jumping out of a helicopter. They couldn't believe it. And I was just like, well, this is just who I am. This is what I do. When you got God on your side, you can do anything. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to take a picture with me. He's like, "I need a picture with you." I was like, "No problem, roger that, sir." And we took a picture, and he shook my hand, and he was like, "You are amazing." And I'm just like, "But I'm just Ivan." Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do anything else but be me. One thing I've learned in life is never quit. You can never quit. Once you start quitting, that's something that it's so impossible to quit, is quitting. And I'm not going to start. I've seen too many, growing up where I grew up, I've seen too many guys quit on themselves, and I was like, I'm not going to be that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to push forward and be the best I can at everything I do.
So really quickly, you jumped out of an airplane.
Yep.
I don't know why people do that.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Landing them is so much cooler, in my opinion.
You pilots just don't understand. I have nowhere to speak because I have never flown or jumped out of an airplane. So.
I love dropping people out of them.
That's right.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So, Ivan, let me ask you this. So when you jumped out of the airplane, up to that point, how many people in the history of the U.S. military had jumped out of an airplane missing an arm?
So for static line, one other guy did it. He was actually an officer from 3rd Group, had lost his hand in 2007 he got hit by an RPG in the vehicle he was in, and he lost his hand. He lost his right hand, I believe. However, 5 years later, I jumped out of an aircraft at 14,000 feet. I went back to Halo school to get recertified, and I was the first and only one upper body amputee to get back on Halo status. So for almost 7 years, I on Halo status as the only upper body amputee to do that.
And so there's more now?
No,
there's not. Okay.
No, there's no one else.
Okay.
One and only.
Yeah, the one and only. So, but even that alone, that shows us that the human spirit, there's more to us than we might actually believe. And so it reminds me of the story of back in the day when no one ever believed that we could run a 4-minute mile. And people kept trying, and I don't know who it was, but he finally did do it. And then within a couple of years, there was multiple people that had run a 4-minute mile, and it comes down to those individuals saying, "Oh, wow, maybe it is possible." So this goes to this idea of human potential, and I talk about it quite a bit. But at the end of the day, as of today, and I've read a lot of papers on it, I read stuff on this stuff all the time. As of today, we don't know what the human being is capable of achieving. And what's even better yet, research shows us that we may never know. Yeah. So there's this process. God made us into these beings that are constantly pushing and learning and growing. And what are the limits? As of today, we don't know what they are. And you're a testament to that.
I appreciate that.
So I'm reminded, I can't remember the name of the movie. Cuba Gooding Jr. was in it. Navy diver who loses his leg.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Men of Honor, maybe?
Men of Honor.
Yeah.
Men of Honor.
And so he does some research, and he pulls out this article about some Air Force pilots that were returned to status after losing a limb. And the cool part is, like, he had to go look that up. So someday somebody's going to be told no.
That's it.
And they're going to do some research, and they're going to pull Ivan Morera's story and go, no, this dude did it.
Yeah,
so can I.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's really cool.
I never thought of it.
You'll never know too, which is even cooler.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Because you're a humble guy, and you probably don't want that kind of recognition.
No.
But
so that's an important part too, Jim. Is that you just bring up is that when we, just a minute ago, I was telling you that you don't know the effect you've had on people around you. But that's the amazing part of our God, is that He gets us in places where we may not even know the impact we're having on other. We may never even know the impact we're having on other people. So the idea then is you just stay committed to God and make those changes. And man, it's just amazing what can happen.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting close to kind of finishing this up. So I want to ask you a couple of.
Sure.
Did you have something you want to say?
Keep going.
Okay.
Man. Yeah.
So one of the things I want to ask you is what you're doing is you've kind of switched roles. You're getting ready to retire. In the last few years, man, I don't even know how many it's been now, but you've been involved in the SOCOM Warrior Games.
Yeah.
So you are competing in.
I've competed in 3 Department of Defense Warrior Games, which is a Paralympic style athletic competition here in the United States for both active duty and military wounded, ill, and injured personnel. And then I have also participated in the Invictus Games, which is an international version of the Warrior Games, which Prince Harry developed back in 2010. So I participated in Germany, in Dusseldorf, Germany in 2023. I earned a silver medal in the 1 minute sprint row. And now this year, I'm actually co-captain of Team USA for Invictus Canada.
Of course you are. That's awesome.
So I'm going to be competing in Canada in a couple winter sports, the skeleton and the biathlon. And then I'm also participating in seated volleyball and in the indoor row, 4 minute and 1 minute row. So the last 2 weeks I've been to Lake Placid and Colorado, training on biathlon, skeleton, and Nordic skiing to prepare for.
Lots of Nordic sports in Miami.
No, actually no.
What?
No.
There is today?
I mean, that's my point. This guy's like, I've never been exposed to this stuff, but I will not be denied.
It's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, I love to challenge myself. When we were in Germany, they had a display of all the sports that were going to be conducted in Canada for 2025. And I saw skeleton, and if you see skeleton, it's just a speed sport. It's a nice speed, like bobsled.
I've always wanted to do that.
It's amazing. I've had like 8 runs down.
Doing 100 miles an hour, 3 inches from the ice.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, more like, I hit 60 miles an hour with like my chin half an inch off the ice.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing sport. And then biathlon is great because it mixes Nordic skiing or cross country skiing and shooting. So I'm a glutton for punishment. I love endurance sports. That burn in the glutes and the legs when you're moving along. For long distances, and I really enjoy it because I can't run anymore. So Nordic style skiing, classic skiing, makes me feel like I'm running and without any impact on my knee because I had it reconstructed.
Yeah.
So it's really enjoyable. It's an honor to have been selected as co-captain for Team US. For me, this is my Olympics. When I was a kid, I saw the '84 Olympics on TV from LA, in LA, and I was like, I was 10 years old at the time. I was like, I want to be an Olympian. I was never athletic as a kid. I wrestled in high school, did judo in college. I was decent, but I wasn't the best athlete. Now, as an adaptive athlete, I've been able to really find myself. I enjoy athletics. I enjoy being competitive. Whether it doesn't matter to me about winning a medal or not. That doesn't matter. It's the journey. It's preparing. It's the hours of training you put in.
Mm-hmm.
The blood, sweat, and tears that you put in to prepare for competition.
It's the discipline.
Yeah. Getting up at 4 a.m. to get in the weight room at 6. Finishing up at 8 o'clock and then go eat breakfast and then go to work. And then do a second session. And when you get home, I enjoy that. I enjoy the discipline. I enjoy putting myself through torturous training, that's where I feel alive is when I'm whether I'm jumping out of an airplane, shooting guns or training for an athletic event, I feel alive. I don't feel pain anymore, or I don't feel the pain in my arm. I might feel the pain in my lungs and the pain in my muscles while I'm training, but I don't feel that constant pain in my arm,
it's awesome.
And I release these endorphins and I feel so good about myself and I really enjoy it.
All right, buddy. That's awesome. So you did talk to us briefly about what you wanted to do when you retire. So you're hoping to be able to you love the coach, and you're hoping to be able to, and by the way, when you were at the Ohio State, you actually took some strength conditioning so your background is in strength conditioning. So you do have a coaching background.
Yeah.
So almost like God was.
That's why you two like each other.
That's
so
right.
much.
That's the reason why I like this guy.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're hoping to do.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do is finish up right now with this. I'm just going to ask you, what are the last words of advice that you can give the people listening that feel that they've lost their way in life?
Don't ever give up on yourself, because God's got your back. Always know that God is with you. You might not be able to see or hear him, but he's with you, and you got to trust him to let him take care of you and take you on that journey to become stronger. One thing I learned is never quit. Never quit on yourself, on your family, on your friends, because there are people in your life that need you in their lives. So whatever you're going through, you're going to get through it. Your current situation doesn't define who you are. It's developing you into who God wants you to be. Like I told myself when I was in the hospital, losing my left hand is not going to beat me. I'm going to be better because God's got my back. He's got me, and whatever he wants, I'm going to do, and I'm going to, however I can glorify him is what I'm going to do. So whether it's, just getting up to cook something for yourself, get up and do it. God's giving you the strength to do it. Participating in sports, whatever activity you're doing every day, just know that God's with you, that he's getting you there. He's going to get you there. My journey isn't even over yet. I'm still moving along and still figuring things out, learning things every day, and knowing that, God is using me to help others.
Love it. Any last comment? Awesome. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I have so much respect for you, Ivan.
Thank you.
And, for our listeners, this is actually our second time interviewing Ivan. Unfortunately, we had a technical glitch with our recording equipment. That's right. And I just wanted to point out that, this story is not easy to tell.
No.
Right? Obviously, Ivan, you're experiencing a bunch of emotions, and he is willing to come back and continue to tell this story because he truly does have a heart where he wants people to maybe learn something from his experience.
No, that's exactly right.
And he's giving of himself to make the world a better place. And I just have so much respect for that, Ivan.
Thank you.
And you. And I'm so grateful I get to know you a little bit better every time I talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
And I'll just say that, every time that we talk about this and having this, you want to tell the story, but when you want to tell the story, it's not there's nothing selfish about it. Yeah. You just know that it helps other people. And so thank you for the time. Thank you for everything you've done for our country, things you've given up. I cannot wait to see what you do next. And
me too.
It's just going to be amazing, man. So thank you, my friend.
It. So last words, buddy. People might want to follow you. When do the games start, and how can they follow you?
Yeah, so the games start February 8th. I believe they're going to live stream it on YouTube. Just look up Invictus 2025 on YouTube, and every day they'll show what sports that they're having that day. The first 3 days are going to be all the team sports, like volleyball, rugby, basketball, all wheelchair rugby, wheelchair basketball, and then the second 3 days are going to be all the winter sports, and then the last couple of days are going to be all the other sports. Indoor rowing is on the last day, and that is my favorite sport. So hopefully,
he's good at it.
I'll tune in.
Yeah. Hopefully by then I'm not too exhausted from everything else, but I'm just going to give everything I have every day. Just to represent my country with integrity and honor. It's such an honor for me to represent my country as an adaptive military athlete. It means so much to me. And it's a blessing, you know, I feel it's a blessing from God that he put me there because, you know, not just me, but all the other adaptive athletes can showcase what we're capable of doing. We focus on what we can do, we don't focus on what we can't do. You know, so when you can see, you know, people with adaptations perform at such a high level, it's an incredible scene. I mean, it's amazing. It's just like, wow, these people are, I'm inspired and motivated by them.
Yeah.
You know, by all my teammates and all the other international athletes to see what they're capable of doing from a wheelchair, whether they're missing, you know, a lower, you know, a leg or an arm, or, you know, they might have a neurological disorder, you know, or severe traumatic brain injury. To participate in at such an elite high level internationally is amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So good.
All right, buddy.
All right. I'm sure our listeners will be following. Ivan, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, fellas, that wraps up another edition of Tribe Talk. We got more great content coming at you soon. Say goodbye, Mike.
See ya.
Love you guys. Bye.